This is an aerial view of my corn pipe. It's really functional as far as a pipe goes. I've got tobacco and I put a little over-the-counter flower in there from Vapor Maven. And even though it's slightly pricey, the stuff is good, and I use a lot of like real cannabis. So they do over-the-counter stuff that hits you. And of course we've got vapor products that have nicotine in them. And it turns out we're supposed to be doing this. You know, high alkaline and nicotine, it's a biochemical wonder. Like many plants and weeds and the curatives of those books from the wagon coach days about lost ways. I'll tell you what, but this is how it is. I'm using this as an introduction to my video that you're going to find amazing, the depth of the power of the Draco. They want to get Putin. They plan for it. In conjunction with all that stuff that happened with the concert shooting, they wanted to assassinate him. There's an investigative journalist who has details that are very believable. So the dark side wanted Putin. I mean, if they're going to send somebody from Orion, from Zeradia, to take a shot at Trump, you think they don't want Putin? He's a target, but he's well protected and fearless. He's got bricks. So if you want to go by class of the social memory complex, I tried to break it down in a way that, using the line to try and keep as much differentiation as possible, because there's light and dark in each part of this. So I'm talking about the dark side. You know, the Nazi swastika that points down this way. Not goes up that way. The swastika. So-called the other way, the right way. But that swastika is heavy. It's got balance. Either way. So the Ukraine is it. That's where the Draco settled. It's Bakhmut. Technically, that becomes ethnically, when the real guys are in power, that side wants to trade with Russia ethnically. Then that dividing line occurs, and it's draconian. Kiev, all that area, with good people who are victimized by what they do, as well as dark ones that offer their bodysuits up as like mountain infantry that get cut up for live organ donation. It's all very Rh negative heavy to match the live organ donors in the U.S. that are on the list. Anybody that's got a live organ, either it's familial or it's a match from overseas. A lady in Amsterdam regulated it, and that's where the Ever Given went when it left the Suez Canal. So it's dark. Mahmoud al-Sisi is blowing that dog whistle, the son of the president. They all work together. There's five eyes. There used to be Marduk, Kissinger. That's Anunnaki. That's not Draconian. Draconian's Borat, Zelensky, Netanyahu. Anybody that's in that fight projected by the big illusion of the Ukraine. Rudy Giuliani got candid cameraed there, trying to get a Hummer from an underage journalist. Borat recorded it. So these are your guys. You know, Putin's gotten married a few times and has mistresses, but he's not malevolent, not malicious. He forgave South Africa. He's Arcturian. He was coached on how to relax his grip when he ran the Mars-Maldek element of the Mars-Maldek Wars. We're going back before the 144,000 were even selected. Men, now, walking the surface, there's a high percentage of them that are awake. And every wake-up gives us all clarity, because they were selected by the Elohim, and Elon Musk was one that's projected to miss it. You see, he was from Mars, and was a gifted man, a VIP, selected, put on a program through Sirius B. He got bushwhacked by them with an invention in Andromeda. Went in, shut the door, demonstrated the capability, said, okay, and he was locked in. He said, you ain't getting out till you make a deal. And he did, and now he's gone. As of 23 August, and he's John 17:12. But this is draconian. This is Beetlejuice. This is Regal, the dark side. They started it. They cheat. We got to cheat back. They'll pull anything they can, running into bridges, occupy the bodysuit. And I'm going to give you evidence of how they work since World War II, with affiliations with Nazis and temporary governments. And the spin being put on Bangladesh, that's a preview. So, it's a social memory complex. The Draconians run it. There's reptiles, like King Charles in the UK. Where did I put them? Well, they're here, the Persian Gulf, the egg layers. They need the white men to build a Ramco and their capability. Then right there, call that Saudi. Then right in Iraq, which is the same reptiles from the region, they got Bahrain that came to the table. They got the UAE that came to the table. They got Persia that they turned into Iran. But the Persian Gulf is where the Anunnaki fell in from the Biru. See, it spins the other way. At some point, they flying saucered in, or they frisbeed in and glided in and bashed into the ground. And it kept getting better over time. But there was a first landing. In that Gulf, in Arcadia, in Sumer, the oldest temple, the Ziggurat temple on their side, was made. They had to blow it off to re-see it, and then those models are used as the big steps going up so they could throw the victim into the whatever in other parts of the world. And there's also pyramids that are all pointed at Orion's belt, shaped so it mathematically clicks like Giza. So it's light and dark. Now you got King David, and you got to go Anunnaki, cover up, but real beings, the fallen, Derek Bros, Enoch, the 200, he's back. I don't know who King David is, but I could tell you Derek Bros is Enoch. I could tell you Jacob Israel is Jacob. I can't tell you who David is. I could tell you who Yeshua was. He's the Shemesh. He has tapestry that includes Sananda, Melchizedek, Horus, partner of Hathor. Do you need an Ankh? That's a cross with a circle on it to read the walls. Bohemian Grove reptile vortexes. They can grow their tail back, and if you 23andMe the critter or you, there'll be a percentage that's saying, hey, there's a crisscross somewhere in that reticulum of DNA. So it's important to realize that you've got the Draco, who own the reptiles. They gave them the recommendations for bodysuits 70 million years ago, and prior to that, for the evolution, while we were doing other things, maybe scattering for food to play the game. we weren't reptilian. You fit under a rock, you survived. Like that. So it's them, the reptiles. Now you've got a planet called Nibiru. That's got the Anunnaki. That's the Persian Gulf. So a regional. You got Mecca. You got the Six-Day War winners. They're Draco. They razzle-dazzle and they do what they want. You know, there was a U.S. ship called the Liberty. There was a signal intelligence vessel that came over to monitor the Six-Day War. And it got hit by the Israelis on day one. They damn near sunk the thing. Just on their way to winning. They assassinate those leaders, and it's all them doing it to them, so there's new guys. Look at the Muslim Brotherhood guy from Egypt who rose up, closest thing to an election you're going to get. Military moves out. It's time to go back. Al-Sisi's in. And there's his son, the hidden one. He's the cause. He held up the Ever Given. He released these African Americans all over Italy, Rome, up to through Europe, into England. But the Ukrainian link-up is there because they have short-haired men, you know, igniting problems throughout Anglo-Saxon land, to the point where you got Irish people that are saying, hey, help the Ukraine. Meanwhile, they're causing the problems with Joey Biden, Deep Navy, dropping that pipeline. So they get whatever they want. And I'm going to show you that it is deep to what their intent was and getting compromised. That's why waterboarding's so important. This same region, we got the guy Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, KSM. He was waterboarded right out of bed, and he gagged up truth, and then they stopped it. Because waterboarding brings truth when it's sought, then you forgive it. So, those are the first, well, those are 3 of the 4. I just covered them. This is northwest of the belt, writ large. Lucifer hijacked 36 planets, but that's draconian orientation. On the globe, Ukraine, that place. Borat, the green screen, the Ark of the Covenant was there and gone already. That's an illusion of roll 'em with blocks of people that, you know, all 9 of them that play roles and pretend they're dead and move in body bags and all this shit they do just to fuck with us. Like they don't even bother to fix some of that. It gets out. And Putin's been in power for a long time, since 2000. He asked Clinton about joining NATO. Well, I mean, dear God, that's Billy Ahab and Hillary Jezebel. So just mix them in here. I can't say they're Anunnaki. I just don't know. I know George H.W. Bush was from Aldebaran proper, not his kids. You know, he was part of the Concordat. He was flipping half of it as King of the Dark Sun with Sid Evans. That's Aldebaran. So it's complicated because they don't get called out in the big 4. But if you sub down to Family Crest, Italy, Sandy Hook, and Bloodbaths, you go Merovingian, Trump, Epstein, Biden, Water Street, Mar-a-Lago, New York City, Subways, Bill Cosby, Trump, Melania, Trump, Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Trump, COVID, Trump, I'm coming back, Trump, I have sex with my daughter, here's some pig Latin, Cleovanka und Umptre Uckfade, okay? He abused her as a child, and she's Cleopatra. The eye of the needle's right there. Henry Kissinger, Henry Goringa put it there. He's Anunnaki, he was Enki. Bush was Enlil. Right? I'm setting up a very high-level character act for the depth of what we're going to see. There's good people and bad people. Okay? Now, when you say people, you're talking human. You know, the voters, the everyday guy, your friends, people, for God's sakes. Not all of us are clones. Some of us are born from two parents. We were read fairy tales. We prayed for brothers and sisters. We went to school. We learned. We got a job. We got promoted. We got fired. We drank. Then we quit. You don't need alcohol. At least I quit. But I could win a taste testing contest on different types of brew in this life. I like Chang the best. Philippine beer is good. Most of the Thai beer. Sie Germans have sie Weissen, dunkel, und, the Weissen beer, that's wheat. Budvar was before Budweiser. It's German law. Hops, barley, water, and yeast. No corn, no rice, no Marine Corps Miller Lite. And they got Bud Zero. Und sie bitter. Bitter. Now, what's left is the grays. Those are those meat suits you've heard me talk about. Skin tight, big heads, big black eyes. They're stuck. They figured out in Zeta Reticuli how to walk into a grown petri dish. I'm in sales, not management, but they formed a collective, got scooped up, had their flying saucer shit, went to Orion. That's what got hit at 51. So it's the Draco, the Anunnaki from Nibiru, spins backwards, the gray, and the reptiles, who are the stupid ones of the bunch, but they're innumerous, and we're so intergenetically bred with them, everybody can bend, and we get the reward from their integration in our DNA, and we got templates to prevent us from bringing any more in. We just got to clean ourselves up and stop voting, because this is for the future. Can't do anything about what you did in the past except relive it, forgive it, and know what you should have done. And we'll get to do that as a collective. So these are the four groups. Now in this mix down here, some are copper-based. They eat Iron Man on Epstein Island in tubs. They must need the iron. They snort nano gold. Derek Bros. To this day, I don't think Derek Bros is a bold-faced, hypnotized cannibal. I have no reason to believe that Enoch is a cannibal in this life. But the presidents are. Both of them. They have to be. They just have to be. It's part of the deal to play. Carter wasn't a cannibal. JFK wasn't a cannibal, but the cutoff line was cannibalism. Joe P. Kennedy got the message. He gave his daughter a lobotomy. Teddy Kennedy wrecked the car and drowned a girl. Gave us the big dig. JFK was gay, but he was sent to us. And his son is alive. It's David Quigley. Okay, so I can't tell you who everybody came from, but Zygmunt Brzezinski was Anu, Kissinger was Enki, and again, the half-brother that we all know about, Enlil, was Bush. He died. He gave the coin to Trump via his son, W, at the funeral. He said he was sorry. He said we know everything. And they moved the box out. Jeb made pee-pee. Laura looked distraught. So did Pill Jill. Biden wasn't Genghis Khan yet, so he looked, Hillary cuckooed out and didn't give a shit. Trump took the coin. Obama's wife has a cock, so that's that. Carter looked amused. He was smiling at the camera. He was healthy then. This is 2018. And Rosalind looked like she'd had a nervous breakdown already, but had to come out in public. Just like Betty Ford, the clinic. The women get terrorized. Buzz Aldrin's wife. Come on. They just get, what the fuck? You mean you're lying to the national audience and you really were an astronaut too? Yes. I wouldn't call it disgraceful. It's just Neil Armstrong. That moon occultation, REM. Part of it, they did it just to fuck with us. to show they could get away with it. They drive the barges into the bridges. We're back to the Draco. So I've said enough about this social memory complex overarched by Lucifer, Michael's brother, who's Jared Kushner, in my take. If you know another being on the planet that gets money from the Saudis and is friends with Musk and just sits back, married to Cleopatra now, thinking he's going the long term without truthing up, see? When we get Jared Kushner to admit his deep, dark role in this, when he gets his high self-awareness and fucking shapeshifts into whatever he is, I don't give a shit. We are going to make sure that truth is had before the last word is spoken on this planet. It's part of the deal. Otherwise, we'll need to keep talking and filibuster with opinions. You may have one. So here's my illustration. The first line doesn't mean anything. I started writing here, dark and light. You know, there's blood. They stained it 2,000 before Christ, BC, BCE, 2,000 of them ago. They landed, call it over 4,000 years ago, shit, and they had the stain to start screwing around and putting it out. It took a long time for it to mutate, and it went east and west, heavy concentrations by belief system, but equally distributed. English, Spanish, I mean, they went through Spain first. Portuguese, Columbus, he's Masood, I keep saying Masood. Masood's a good man. Second time I did that. He's Sabood. His old man's his natural father, and his looks a spitting image, and he's got a name that's got a long bunch of characters in it. And Barry Sortero was of that faith, and he was in the jumper program. Where the fuck is he from? You know, your guess is as good as mine, but he's so low on the totem pole. Man, we're going to get into it. There'll be a point in this video where I'm trying to recall the name of the director of the CIA that was then in a position to be in the room when the Osama bin Laden pretend show of the clone went down. His name was Gates. Either William or Robert, the white-haired, fucking grandpa-looking, Jeff Sessions-looking CIA director. Him. He's trans-Bush Obama because he's got a seat in that audience. So they can all laugh at Obama. Shoemaker laughed with him. Shoemaker. He knows what the fuck's going on. He drove us through IEDs. He found Looking Glass in 1980. Dick Cheney, the button pusher from the basement, Cretin, dove hunter, shot himself in the foot. Karl Rove, they're hunting children. The doves, isn't it sick? Okay, there's a roll-up. We're now done. What do you think? Peace and love. Watch a great video. It's the Ukrainians. Kid. Continue. Hey dudes. People. Humans. We mow the lawn. This is an introduction to try and tell you what's coming. 1971 was a big year. It has to do with Bangladesh, then and now. In parallel, you've got the relationship with Vladimir Putin and the Ukraine that'll be broken out, including the usual cast of characters from a reincarnation standpoint. You got to go with a whole cast will be appearing here. You know, the ones running for office, the cannibals. Maya's got a calendar. We're in the 5 lazy days of September, and I'm going to orient you to my cover page and its accompanying graphics. Please excuse me. Yes, it's the jumper program, but you're still here on Earth. So here's a Chinese calendar and a description. You know, they calculate everything. It's correlated to Maya. It's got to be, because all things wrap around Melchizedek at 51%. 360 days plus 5. Solstices, equinox, you name it, we're in the golden age and we're going. There's Roy Murphy. He's a contributor here because I listen to LPs with him, and it's all about Bangladesh and George Harrison. You'll get to see it. We grew up on Long Island. There it is. Long Island Sound, Connecticut. Hurricane, whichever, tropical storm, whap, came in on the South Shore, and Christie got upset. He wanted his own beach, fat boy. Now look at this history right here, which we'll get into in a couple of videos, but not quite this far back. So in 54, there were the Rose. That's the Russians. Crimean Wars, I mean, they came up this way, historically. And then, how far back did they go? Well, shit. Now you go in here, and there's this projection of stuff that's going on with, you know, the Great White Brotherhood making their claim. And that goes back, all the dates end in a 4. And it's roughly where we are now, that date. And what happened in Bangladesh, not the Ukraine, in conjunction with what Harrison did, the calling out of Hare Krishna, him in person, like, wah! Not that he's Hare Krishna, but people came to play with him. Eric Clapton, Ringo, he had 2 Beatles at this thing, and you'll get to see it. And I listened to it at Roy's house. He was gay, shamanad, punched in the stomach, but he's happily married now, and he's damn near a genius, and he's got very charming eyes. He's a daydreamer. But he's a grown man now, all bearded up and Sherlocked out. So, I was Billy the Kid. Now please know that 9/11 3 BC brings us to 2020, and it's 0 day. So when you look at the bottom piece, it's 5:05 on this 9/11.0, because it's not 2040 yet. Then you make it a 4, because it's Christmas, New Year's, true everything. If you're staying here, everybody's going to come to know this, so get used to it. And then it's day 0 at the bottom. In the purple flame. Violet. So I thought these dates were important, and as you get to watch my video, please comprehend everything. It's important you comprehend everything. I write some stuff out on the front of the screen so you can read and listen. Some things are semi-repeated because I want them to sink in, and it's a precision that works out that way. By algorithm, when I hit the cut button and it merges and shit shows on the other end, if it's good enough for me, it's good enough for you, the viewer. That's how I roll. Isn't that nice? Because I'll make it 51%. Ready? Watch. Well, hi, it's 5 September. I'm still pressing on with a phenomenal video about Bangladesh. As I mentioned in the beginning, the Luciferian social memory complex consists of 4 major collectives. The Draconians are for you to die laughing with black humor, or bullets being shot in the head, or being on a bridge that falls down because they rammed a barge into it. The Ukrainians formed an outfit called the OUN. They go back, the complications of the evolution of the Ukraine is incredible. It was settled long ago by some people called the Rus, meaning rowers. And that's the front part of Russian. In order to do this, you have to peel the skin back off all the players and know that there's light and dark and witting and unwitting here to learn. The Ukrainians that are connected in as witting and dark run it. They run the Ukraine and Israel. So I'm going to listen to you, if you watch this, we're going to listen to a guy talk a little bit about a segment of Ukrainian history that bears recall, because the way they operated then, on both sides of World War II, picking their positions, is how they operate now. I didn't know any of this, but apparently Putin does. All of eastern Ukraine likes Russia. The Bakhmut side of the dots surrounding it. Ethnically, they're tied to them because of the history. The Kazakhs had come through, you had Mongols, so it's all mixed up, but it's the heart of darkness. Those people in the stands, I mean, they play polo with goats' heads, and it's insane. Then you've got the comedy effect of Borat and the green screen. I watched a guy go from New York, fly on his own dime 2-3 years ago, make it into the Ukraine capital city area, and he filmed, lights, camera, action for a whole neighborhood with lights and everything else to pretend, the sirens go on and they have all the amps of a war scene, and it's actually like a rehearsed movie. That's how they work. Look at Borat and Rudy. So let's listen to this gentleman. He does a pretty good job of explaining things.
The majority of the Ukrainians, they ended up under Bolshevik rule. In the 1930s, Stalin, he created a man-made famine in which millions of Ukrainians perished. And
well, that's Stalin.
More perished during
Mason, see that? Fabian.
Later that decade. Ukrainian nationalism was the most prevalent in the western part of the country, and that part was now part of the Second Polish Republic. In 1929, the OUN, the Organization for Ukrainian Nationalists, was established with their slogan, Ukraine for Ukrainians. The OUN, they saw violence as a legitimate means to reach their goal. They committed assassination attempts on Polish politicians. Also, moderate Ukrainians were targeted by them. And I have to finish writing this paper. Specifications of Ukrainians in 1930, where the Polish authorities tried to weed out Ukrainian nationalism. Now, violence was used for sure. There is a debate on how much violence was used and how many Ukrainians were killed. Polish sources state none, Ukrainian sources state many. Because of these Polish specifications, the OUN radicalized even further. Then it was 1939. In that year, the Second Polish Republic ceased to exist because on the 1st of September that year, the Germans invaded Poland from the west. And sometime later, the Soviets did so via the east.
Now know that the Concordat began in 38 with Pope Pius XII, meeting with the Chancellor of Germany, who was Frederick. He wasn't the Pope yet, he was the vicar. He left there, Berlin, to Nazi salutes, and that was the kickoff. And the Ukrainians leveraged the Nazis to study. So you've got Dark Aryan Aldebaran from that planet mixed in to coordinate with the Draco. And they don't lose. So the Draco humans pick up all the skill set, they form a government, and they do whatever they want in order to then either die or move somewhere to continue to live and be a part of the problem. Look at Zalewski and his parents, the guy who's running it now. He was a comedian, like an MTV nut job. Now he's the president of the Ukraine. He came over to the U.S. We gave him a shit ton of money, equipment, HIMARS, and we're shameful. We sent a Global Hawk over there, and Putin had to have an Air Force guy hip check it out of the sky, because Global Hawks are armed. And the Ukrainians fired a weak UAV towards the Kremlin, and it poofed. And Putin does what he needs to do. When they shot up that music concert, he ripped the beards off the fleeting Ukrainians before they got off the border and got information. And he blames Obama. He orally articulated that. So I'd be careful about Barack Obama if I was a Barack Obama. Maybe Michelle will protect him.
They agreed upon this via the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which was signed 1 month prior. So
You got
the western
Himmler,
part of
he was the
Ukraine,
police
which was
chief.
part of southeastern Poland, that was now part of the USSR. So therefore, Ukraine became united. The OUN had to lay low because many Ukrainian nationalists were deported or executed by the Soviet Secret Service, the NKVD. In 1940,
So you've got all these
occurred
innocent
within
Ukrainians who
from
aren't
now on,
Draco,
there was the more
who were born for
moderate
that
wing, led by
purpose.
Andrei Melnik, known as the OUN-M, and the more radical wing, led by Stepan Bandera, known as the OUN-B.
You know, I know Ray Melnik.
Occupied Poland to
He's a Booz Allen guy. He was a part of the Delta mission. He's a big dude, smart, a nice man, and he did an okay job running things for L3 when he got brought on.
German troops, they arrived.
Retired 06, Secret Army.
Among them was the Roland Battalion and Stepan Bandera. The Germans actually forbade him to come. I mean, he had to stay put in German-occupied Poland, but he did come anyway. And on that day, he issued the Act on the Restoration of the Ukrainian State, in which he proclaimed the founding of the Ukrainian state, for which whole generations of the best sons of Ukraine laid down their lives. The newly established Ukrainian state will collaborate closely with National Socialist Greater Germany, which, under the direction of its leader Adolf Hitler, is creating a new order in Europe and the world, and has helped.
Okay, so you get a good idea about the genesis of how things work at that level. We're going to cover modern times now and the evidence of this type operation against their arch Arcturan rival, Vladimir Putin.
We all know that big mice man Obama we endured. Dementia Joe was forced away, one turn and then he slows. Now democracy's secure. Primary started getting tough. Fake accent she whipped out. You know she's lying when she starts to laugh. Democracy would be lost.
Makeover.
We must win at all costs. The Democrats not confident.
Literally.
Insane.
He used to look differently.
The socialist too. Is she Indian, black or white? She's the
Joe Biden is lurking in the rear. So put them all out front. So, who you do, Ginger or Marianne? I'm proud to say we used to play that game. Who would you do? Any two women. Somebody calls it out, the gentleman pick, imaginarily. And you have to do one. The answers are astounding. And a man named Greg from SAIC, Greg Clarkson by name, the imagery man, very much a programmer. He liked that game. Billy, let's play Who You Do. We went to a Mexican restaurant in Fayetteville, North Carolina. You know, you order the number, the full meal. He eats the meal and waiters, I like another number 5. He chowed down a second meal. Hey, Billy, let's play Who Would You Do? So you got to pick 2. I mean, come on. It's U.S. SOCOM, a very diverse collective, cafeterias and stuff like that. So birds of a feather flock together. And you just saw Gilligan's Island. How'd they do that? It's an illusion. It's a show. It had episodes. Did they get rescued? was the skipper. How the hell did they get lost in a storm? And is it the West Coast? Is it Hollywood? Was Ginger a star? Was Marianne a country girl? Who would you do? You're the professor. What do you think? He hit out? Gilligan was too simple. The skipper, well, he was a character. Now the professor. Then you got Jim back.
Joe Biden sinking ship. We all know that big mice man on the bottom we endured. Dementia Joe was forced away. One turn and then he slows. Now democracy's secure. Primary started getting tough. Fake accent she whipped out. You know she's lying when she starts to laugh. Democracy would be lost.
Makeover.
We must win at all costs. The Democrats not confident.
Literally.
Insane.
He used to look differently.
The socialist too. Is she Indian, black or white? She's the
Joe Biden was a skipper. Well, he was a character. Now the professor. Then you got Jim Backus. This was Mr. Magoo. Roadhog! All right. Enough of me. I know my tube. And I'd like to thank Jimmy Edwards. He's got 2 first names. He goes to the Philippines. He comes back here. He knows how to build a still. He fucking wrote it down for me. That big handlebar mustache. He's a good man. Larry Costa, too. Martone, wherever you're at. Hope you know it's Tuesday. Take a good pee. We're going to win. Reverse the age. Feeling. Swing. You know, the irony of golf and skydiving, it's about relaxing. Peace. Continue. All right, so this is Rumble. Your reporter is Ben Norton. Come on down, Norton. He's going to tell us about the government of Bangladesh. I predict those will be his first words. He's got the globe behind him, and he's very intellectual. But he's going to talk about exposing U.S. government role in Bangladesh regime change. Why PM Sheikh Hasina was overthrown. That sounds like the CIA. They're always behind that kind of shit. They have case officers, and they wait till the time is right, and that's how the Shah of Iran got ousted for Ahmadinejad. So let's listen.
The government of Bangladesh was overthrown in August.
By
after
who?
Months of violent
By who?
protests.
It's passive voice.
A new interim leader came to power named Muhammad Yunus, who is a banker who is very closely linked to the U.S. government. The U.S. Congress awarded Muhammad Yunus with its top award for a civilian, the U.S. Congressional Gold Medal. And in 2009, U.S. President Obama gave Yunus the Medal of Freedom.
I mean, come on.
After Bangladesh's government was
That's full
toppled,
up.
the U.S. State
Bill
Department
Gates.
immediately recognized
However,
the new
not so fast, Bugs
unelected
Bunny.
administration.
Not
And
from
U.S.
him, from
Secretary
me.
of State Antony Blinken
Blinken.
stated that he welcomed in the swearing
He
in
was on the
of
tape
Dr.
of the
Muhammad
takeout of
Yunus
the
to
clone.
lead the interim government. And he says
He's been the
that the
Secretary of
United
State.
States is committed to working with Bangladesh as it
Where's
charts
Biden
a
right
democratic
now?
and prosperous future.
What's he
Muhammad
doing?
Yunus has been closely linked to the U.S. government for decades. He spent
There's
a
the
large
crybaby.
part of his career
Republican
working in the
crybaby.
U.S.
Oh, there's Mitch.
training as a
He doesn't
neoliberal
even have a
economist.
double jowl, triple.
Yunus became very wealthy
Yunus.
and famous because he created the Grameen Bank, which is referred to as the so-called bank for the poor.
He's
And
creative.
his idea was that many poor people don't have access to banking, so he could profit from giving what are known as microloans to poor people.
It
exploiting
works.
Poor people.
They
in
pay
the
back,
perverse
many of them.
name of helping them.
They pay
Researchers
back.
in
You
Australia
guys know
who
that. They have those
support
little
the
help me
Grameen
funds.
Bank. They're not critics.
The person
They
explains
admitted
why they need
that
the money, and people
average
contribute,
rate of
and they pay
interest
back.
on a working capital loan
Very
at the
reasonable.
Grameen Bank is 20%
Capitalism.
in a poor country like Bangladesh.
Whoa.
20% is a very high rate of interest. That is exploitative.
Is that what you make
And
if you
Grameen
invest
has
in the
also
bank?
expanded
20%?
from
Oh, that's for
Bangladesh around
loans.
the world, including in the United States.
Get
where the
ahead.
Bank
Money
Green
makes
America
money, peeps.
has opened banks in 27 cities
Bitcoin.
and boasts of giving out more than
Cash
1
App.
million loans.
Close your
On
bank
its
account.
website,
I
it
can't
boasts of
afford it. I
targeting
can't afford to
poor
have a bank
communities in the
account.
US,
I'm an
in particular
American.
black
I'm
and
a
Latino
woman,
communities.
and I ain't got a
And
fucking
the
bank
website
account.
of the
I
Green
need
Bank
Cash App. I'm
states
off Cash
that
App too,
their
because you need a
interest
bank account
rates
for Cash App.
are
I'm stuck
15
with
to
Bitcoin and fees.
18%
Oh.
on their loans.
No tax.
Again,
Well, you can pay tax too
18%
if you
is
want.
a very high interest
High.
rate. This is exploitative.
Oh.
But through his work as a banker, Muhammad Yunus became very
Bankers.
close to
Who are
top
the
US
bankers?
government
The
officials,
central bank.
especially the Clinton family.
Oh, there
Hillary
she is,
Clinton
Jezebel,
went
Walmart.
with Yunus to a village in
Walmart,
Bangladesh,
friend of Trump, the
and
striped
Bill
suits,
Clinton,
Ivanka,
former
and Bush
president,
as a child.
said to CNN
They must have
way
been 8
back
years
in
old, dressed in
2001
prison garb with
that he
Donald
was
and Hillary.
advocating for Yunus
Way the
to
fuck
receive
back,
the
Cleopatra
Nobel
and Bush.
Prize.
Eddie
And that is
Munster.
exactly what
Donald
happened
Jr.
a few years later.
I'm parallel
In 2006,
broadcasting with
Muhammad
Ben.
Yunus was given the Nobel Peace
Yunus.
Prize, meaning he shares this dubious
Oh,
honor
yeah.
with war criminals like Barack Obama and
Ah.
Henry Kissinger, who
Oh,
were also
Enki.
given Nobel Peace Prizes despite the many
Woo!
wars.
Mad,
and coups
mutually
that
assured
they backed.
destruction,
But it's not just the overt
Joseph,
support that the
the
U.S.
Henry
government has provided to
Goringa.
Yunus. There's also been quite a lot of
Floated in out of
covert
Tobago,
support.
Navy
And this is
man,
proven
Alexandria,
by
the
U.S. State Department cables
Yeah,
published
Benito
by
delivered.
WikiLeaks. Back in 2009,
His son was
in
Marduk.
a confidential State Department
You don't
cable
know about
titled
Marduk, do you,
Nobel
viewer?
Laureate Requests
Gosh,
US
before your
Government
time,
Help
before
on
you
Grameen
dropped
Bank
into
rules,
the show of the
this document
pentagram.
reveals that
Ask
Muhammad
Kimberly
Yunus
and
has been
Goblin.
collaborating for decades
The Swift
with
Code,
the U.S.
the
government,
Fed.
conspiring behind the scenes against the previous leader of Bangladesh, the elected Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina.
So
and
you got
in this
Sheikh
State
Hasina.
Department cable, it notes that the U.S.
And you got this
ambassador
new guy,
in
Yunus.
Bangladesh was having regular
Now, you got
meetings
the people
with
from back
Muhammad
in
Yunus,
71, so
who
we
was
gotta do some
requesting
facial
Washington
recognition and
support
name correlation.
on lobbying
Identity.
against the Prime Minister Hasina on behalf of the Grameen Bank. And in the State Department cable, it noted that the U.S. ambassador, quote, pledged to assist Yunus in obtaining a meeting with the Prime Minister and in arguing on Yunus's behalf with the Prime Minister and her advisors. And this cable also acknowledges that Yunus and the U.S. ambassador were discussing their frustration with the government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and her party, the Awami League. These are just a few pieces of evidence showing how the U.S. government has played a role in the overthrow of Bangladesh's previous Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and the installation of the new leader, who was unelected, Muhammad Yunus. Now, Sheikh Hasina has been demonized in the Western media and by the U.S. government.
She's a woman,
as
so we must say,
authoritarian.
what have you
She was
been
democratically
doing?
elected, and she served office from 2009 until 2024.
Ah, that's
so
a
she was
long
in
fucking
office
time
for
to be
15
taken.
years. That means that she actually served less time in office than the former German leader, Angela Merkel,
Oh,
who was
less.
in office
Euro.
for 16
Hitler's daughter
years,
right there. You
longer
see the
than
resemblance?
Sheikh Hasina.
It's Adolf
Merkel was
Hitler's
never
daughter.
demonized as
CERN.
authoritarian or a dictator, of course, because she was a loyal Western
Why wouldn't he
ally.
have kids?
Now, the
He got
overthrow
out.
of Hasina has become a hotly
Argentina,
debated
Hitler was an old
geopolitical
man when he
topic
died.
involving the United States.
I don't know if he got
China,
doorknobbed or what the fuck,
Russia,
but he was in
and
South
India,
America.
the major powers in the world.
Mengele was in the
Today we're going
US.
to be discussing the geopolitics
Walking amongst
of this,
you, Joseph
the role
Mengele,
of the
he might
US
have
government,
shopped next to you.
why there were large protests, the legitimate
fuck did he
critiques
care? He was
of
white.
Hasina
He just kept
and the
his mouth
government
shut.
in Bangladesh, the allegations of
Walked
corruption,
around, worked in the
the
dumps at
economic
Dulce, where
problems
you didn't
and
go.
poverty. This is a very complicated
Baglio
issue,
did.
but it's very important to understand
Hi,
what
Holly.
happened in a larger historical context,
I'd say
looking
hi to you
at the
through time.
so-called color revolutions
Remotely
that have
view
gone
it
on
and say,
in
"Hi, Bill."
Eastern Europe, in
In the
Central
future.
Asia, in Western Asia,
Oh,
in
yeah.
the so-called Middle East, and
The
in North
so-called
Africa,
North
where
Africa.
the U.S. government has
Mahmoud
played a role
al-Sisi.
in backing coups
COP27.
and violent protest
We
movements that
pay
have
for their
successfully
armies.
overthrown
Egypt.
governments. It doesn't
Trump
mean that
starved
every
them
government
out.
overthrown
That's
was
why
a
Mahmoud
perfect
al-Sisi
government
took
that
the
represented the people,
ever-given,
and that there was no
the evergreen.
corruption.
The evergiven
Obviously,
is
many
the
of these
vote.
governments have
The
a lot of
evergreen
problems.
is
Many of
the
these leaders are deeply
fucking
flawed.
conglomerate in
But
Taiwan.
what is important to understand is that the U.S. government
It drops
has a
on
history
you when you
of
understand
backing
it.
these so-called color revolutions against independent leaders in order to advance its geopolitical interests.
What
It
about
doesn't mean that those
non-state
leaders
actors like
are
Hollywood?
perfect or
Bah!
even ideal or good,
Huh?
but
Curb your
in many
enthusiasm,
ways they
Ben.
were seen as obstacles to
Anyways.
U.S. geopolitical interests.
Okay.
And this is precisely what Sheikh
Geopolitically.
Hasina has alleged.
It's a feeling.
The Indian media reported in
It's
August
George
after
Harrison.
she fled to India,
We're back
they
to him.
obtained access to
The
a
fuck
speech
happened to
that
71?
she allegedly prepared, in
All
which
this?
she accused the
Right
U.S.
outside
government
Nepal, for
of
God's sake.
backing the attempt to oust her
Ah,
in the violent
a woman.
protests. And in particular, according to
On
the speech,
TV after
Sheikh
fucking
Hasina
how many
said,
decades
quote,
in charge
I could
of
have
what?
remained in power
Bangladesh?
if I had surrendered
Look, they
the
got problems.
sovereignty of Saint Martin Island
They're letting
and
these-
allowed America
Good
to
news
hold
is
sway
they're letting the radical
over the Bay
student-led
of
Islamists
Bengal.
back in.
So what is she talking about
Mix
here?
it up.
She's
The new
accusing
guy.
the U.S. government of backing this color revolution because Washington for years has pressured Bangladesh to allow it to turn this strategic island to the south of Bangladesh called St. Martin's Island into a U.S. military base in order for the U.S. military to have power projection in the Bay of Bengal. And I think there are two major
For
geopolitical
what?
interests driving the U.S. here.
For
First of all,
what?
the U.S. wants to have more control over Myanmar, where there is a
Ugh.
military government that came to power. Myanmar had
Myanmar.
previously been governed from 2016
That's
to
Malaysia, for
2021
God's sakes.
by
That's
another
Muslim.
Western-backed
There's
leader,
Johnny
Aung
Subud,
San Suu Kyi, who, by
making
the way,
his way back.
also was a winner of
The
the
worst
Nobel Peace
elements of
Prize,
every religion
like
out of
Muhammad
this
Yunus,
man, the
like
Jumper
Barack
program.
Obama, like Henry Kissinger.
And who's he
Aung
with?
San Suu Kyi had been a
Jezebel.
loyal Western ally.
And who
Many
is
of the
she?
groups backing
Maybe
her
she after
had
you
been
know,
funded
you
by
come
the
me.
US government through orders
Instant,
like the
huh?
National Endowment for Democracy.
You green,
She
come
obviously
with me,
leaned her foreign
evergreen.
policy
I
toward
want
the
you
West
more of
and was
you.
very critical
You
of
taste sweet.
China. And the military
taste sweet.
overthrew her in 2021,
Bring me some, I'm
creating
the
a military
queen.
government which has been much more
I'm
independent
Elizabeth, but my
in its
name's
foreign
Hillary.
policy.
I eat
And the US
people.
has been very critical
You're
of the
sweet.
military government.
She
and has been trying
he
to find
eats
a way
people. He's a
to
pet of
exercise
war.
more influence over Myanmar.
Horse teeth.
And one of the main reasons for
I'm
this,
saying
of
it.
course, is to try to
Don't
create
laugh, it's true.
geopolitical problems for China.
Fucking
Myanmar
president.
shares
Her
a
husband's
large
got a
border
cock. The
with
white
the
man,
southwest of China,
the first man
and
woman.
For years, the
She
U.S.
kicks
has
his
backed
ass.
armed
Michael
groups that
Robinson.
have fought
Huh!
in Myanmar.
Shake it
and
on,
have
Evan.
created
Shake that
instability
sausage out.
in
Feel
the
that
region.
package.
So if the U.S. military can
Michelle,
build a
Michael,
strategic base south of
teleprompter,
Bangladesh
Michelle,
on St. Martin's Island, it can be
Larry,
used for power
change I could
projection
believe
into
in
Myanmar,
Benghazi
to
2012,
overthrow the military
and when they
government there.
released those,
And
that
furthermore,
JV,
another very
who was
important
together at the
strategic
airport to
interest the US
receive the
has
bodies,
here
why it
is
was
it
those
wants to be
two,
able to
and then a
project power
fucking
into
big
the Bay
tooth
of
went
Bengal
campaigning in
and
Vegas the next
southeast
day.
into the
Yeah,
Straits of
9/11,
Malacca in
2012, he got it.
Southeast Asia,
Another
between
9/11.
Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia.
Come on,
This is one
Singapore,
of
they
the
cane people
most
there. Don't fuck
strategic
around with
maritime
them.
choke points on
They got
Earth.
leads.
Every single day on average.
The leads are everywhere.
15.2
L-E-E-L-I. You don't know
million
what's
barrels of
coming to you.
oil
Bruce Lee
pass
played
through
ping
the
pong
Strait
with
of Malacca,
nunchucks.
according to the U.S. government's Energy Information Administration, the EIA.
Ping pong was
that
a
makes this the
central
second
area of focus
most
in my
important
undergraduate
trade
degree,
choke point
my
on Earth
associates.
for energy after the Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf region.
Didn't
And
we
this
shoot
fact
down
has
a
been
whole
highlighted
airplane
by
full of
the US
Iraqi,
government's Energy
Iranian
Information
civilians
Administration. It
by
noted back
accident?
in
And you know what
2018
happened? George
that
H.W.
more than
Bush said, hey,
30% of global maritime
I'll
crude
never have
oil
to
trade,
apologize
15
for
million
my
barrels per
military.
day, passes through the
Words
South
to that
China
effect.
Sea, and more than 90%
Like there was no
crude
sorrow
oil
there. Then when he
volumes
kicked the
flowing
bucket, he
through
said,
the
I'm
South
sorry.
China Sea transited the Strait
On
of
the
Malacca,
envelope.
which is the shortest sea
We know
route
everything.
between
I'm sorry. Look, he
suppliers
forgave
in
himself, so that
Africa
shit he
and the
cancels
Persian
out all
Gulf
this
and markets
All
in
his former
Asia.
testimony, he wrote it down and signed it and gave it out. George H.W. Bush was the king of the fucking dark sun, you.
Partners are in the Persian Gulf. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, providing
The
oil
reptiles.
and liquefied natural gas, LNG.
How'd they get it?
They provide
Did they have scientists?
90% of that.
Did they have
through
scientists in
the
Saudi
Strait
Arabia?
of
They got
Malacca.
fucking egg-laying
So,
stupid
US imperial
people, and the white
strategists
people
for years
did Aramco.
salivated
They built
over
all
the
the shit for them.
of
They sat
building
there in
a
their robes,
strategic
jacking off,
military
and
base
humping
in
camels.
southern Bangladesh,
And here they
on
are.
Saint
They're
Martin's
reptiles.
Island, which they could
What's their
potentially
belief
use
system?
if there's
Mecca.
a war on China in
Mecca.
order to block the Strait of Malacca,
And they're tied in
which
with
would
fake
cut
Hebrews.
off 90% of the
They're
oil
all one
that goes
big
into
social
the South
memory
China
complex,
Sea.
and
of course,
Lucifer
China is the largest
runs over
importer
that.
of
Oh,
oil,
who's
not
Lucifer?
only in the
That's
South China
Archangel
Sea, but
Michael's
on
brother
Earth.
in body
China
on
is
this
the world's
planet right
largest
now.
oil importer.
Graphene
So the
oxide,
fact that Bangladesh
say it.
is
Married to
overthrown Prime
Cleopatra,
Minister
say
Hasina
it.
has accused
Trump's
the US
son-in-law,
government
say
of
it.
backing
Born
the
in
color
81.
revolution in order to try to build a base on
Meth
St.
ban.
Martin's Island is something very plausible.
Market
From the perspective
beef,
of U.S.
overbidden.
imperial strategists who are preparing for war on China,
Pick
this
a
could
song.
be extremely
NIB,
important
Ozzy.
for their attempt to try to starve
Take
China
you for a ride
of
on
oil.
the Reading.
And in fact, the
All those
Indian
years,
media, which
Mount
has
Graham.
largely been quite supportive of
It's been
Sheikh
him.
Hasina and critical of the violent
The man
protests
with the
going
tight
on,
suit, we're not
because
even
she had
talking
leaned a little bit toward
Zuckerberg.
India, but Sheikh
He's
Hasina had
Malbec.
also
He's
formed
Threads.
pretty close relations
Life on
with
Mars
China.
is nothing
And
compared to
historically,
those two.
Bangladesh and China had tense relations.
Then you
but
have
under
Joey
her,
Biden, who's
those
Genghis
relations
Khan,
had grown closer.
Soul Swap,
and the Indian media speculated
and
this is one
Musk,
of the
who's a
reasons why she
Draco,
was
Soul
overthrown.
Swap, VIP,
The
flunk
Hindustan
out,
Times
144,000
published an article
elect.
Did Sheikh Hasina's leaning
Men
towards
from
China
Mars.
cause her downfall?
He missed it.
It noted
John
that Bangladesh's
17:12
proximity
confirmed by a
toward
looking
China
glass
and
event.
deepening
23
bilateral
August.
military cooperation
Yeshua was
with China
force
had raised
seer.
red flags in
Threw
New
it out
Delhi
there
and
in
Washington.
chapter
So despite
17,
the fact that she was
he hadn't been
politically
arrested
close
yet.
to India, the fact that she had also
Peter hadn't
deepened
lied.
her relations with China
I.e.
had not only frustrated
Peter
Washington,
Bilberg.
but it had also frustrated the Indian government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's very
Narendra
right-wing
Modi.
and very anti-China.
God
So
bless
it
the
shows
Subaru,
that
the Baja.
she was
The boxer
independent in
engine.
her foreign policy. In 2021, under Prime Minister Hasina,
He's reading.
Bangladesh
He's
joined the
now
BRICS
reading.
Bank, the New Development Bank.
Uh-huh.
And as recently as June,
Bangladesh is
Bangladesh's
in.
state media outlet announced
Look, so the new
that
leader
Bangladesh
that
was
we
trying
overthrew to
join
get him in
BRICS,
is in
and
BRICS.
that China
And we ain't.
had supported
You with me?
Bangladesh in its
Good.
bid to join
Hey,
this
hey,
bloc,
hey.
along with Brazil, Russia,
Look,
India,
there-
and China,
uh-huh,
and South
there they
Africa.
are. Look.
And BRICS has now expanded, and other invited members include
Where's the U.S.? Where's the
Iran,
NATO countries?
Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia,
Saudi
Egypt.
Arabia? Well,
Some
they
of them
snuck
have not
in those
officially
fuckers.
confirmed that they're
OPEC?
joining,
You
but
mean
the
they
point
got
is
the
that
whole...
BRICS is
How's the
expanding.
U.S. going to... Well,
Bangladesh
we're
has
supposed to
wanted
have
join
the...
BRICS, and Prime
We're supposed
Minister
to have the
Hasina
Federal
was
Reserve
working
to
with
switch
China
money for oil.
in order to try to join.
The Brent,
and by the way,
Trent, or
while
whatever the fuck
Bangladesh
it
had
was.
been participating in the process of Eurasian integration, working more closely with China and Russia, at the same time, the U.S. government had been pressuring Bangladesh to
I mean,
join
look at
its
that's the
so-called
Japan flag, but green in
Indo-Pacific
the back.
strategy, which really means
Ew, that's a good
Washington's
symbol. I
attempt
like
to
it.
contain
I'm going to
China.
find a Bangladesh
I'm reading
pizza.
here an article in the major Bangladeshi
Shit, if George
newspaper,
Harrison
the
could do a
Dhaka
concert
Tribune,
for him in
from
71,
2023.
let's tie it back.
This article notes that a senior director for South Asia from the U.S. National Security Council visited Dhaka and had meetings with high-level officials.
All right, you got
and
the
she
message. You
conveyed
getting
a
all the
message
names of
from the
everybody?
Biden administration
Don't forget 'em.
that the U.S.
Don't
wanted
forget 'em.
Bangladesh to join the Quad, the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, and the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework.
Boom.
And this article
Look,
noted
they got
on the
that
other
side of
hand,
the ocean.
Beijing,
China's
had
got the
been
production.
pressuring
Russia's
Bangladesh
got
not to
all
join
their stuff.
any
They got
U.S.-led
the CCP,
anti-China coalitions.
KGB.
Now, India is
But
already
Three
a member
Gorgeous
of
Damn
the
Peeps,
Quad, this
that's the
anti-China
comeback.
group,
The
which
Mossad ain't
also
done yet.
has Japan,
They think
and
it's
Australia
over. Look, they're waving. Now he built the
so
Ram
the US
Temple,
has
the
been
Indian
trying to
guy.
expand the Quad
70%
by not
done.
only
That's all
having
real
India,
human stuff.
but also Bangladesh. But Sheikh Hasina had said no. Unlike India's right-wing current Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is more pro-Western and anti-China.
Who's in front of the flag? Joey B. He's behind the scenes now, still running it. Genghis Khan wants
so this
Mongolia.
Is where politics gets complicated.
Yeah.
Because, yes,
Play it all,
Bangladesh
Elvis.
has good relations with
Bilberg.
India, at least under Sheikh Hasina, but she also has good
Fucking
relations
Dan
with
Marino
China
fan,
and with Russia.
Peyton Manning.
And her relations with the
In the
U.S.
pocket.
have been very
Joe, win the
tense.
name.
Whereas
69
India
Jets.
has bad relations with
I take
China,
goat.
but good relations with the U.S.
Hello.
and Russia. So geopolitics can be quite complicated.
Yeah.
And by the way, it wasn't just China, but also Russia that had been outspoken in support.
Putin's had a lot of
the
secret
Bangladeshi
wives
government.
and mistresses.
In fact, in
and
December
he gets his. Oh, Vlad
2023,
gets his.
just a few
But
months
he was happily
before
married.
Prime
He's
Minister
had
Hasina
kids
and her
with a couple
government
of
were
different
overthrown,
people.
the
Maybe a
Russian
couple of
embassy in
payoffs, you know.
Bangladesh published
Living the
a
dream,
statement
Vlad. He's
that was
Arcturian,
by
man. Why
Russian
not?
Foreign
Be a
Ministry
radical.
spokeswoman Maria Zakharova, and Russia
Now, he's
warned
not
of
a
the
really,
danger
like,
of
pro-transvestite.
destabilization of Bangladesh. The Russian
a
embassy
moral,
noted that there were
ethical, like,
violent
hey,
protests going
men and
on
women are
with
the ideal
rioters burning
mix.
buses and attacking police. And the Russian embassy noted, quote, "We see a direct link between these events and instigating activities of Western diplomatic missions
Look,
in
you're talking
Dhaka,
about
which
Pakistan,
is the capital
India.
of Bangladesh."
They
In
got
particular,
nukes.
Russia noted the role of
The
U.S. Ambassador
has
Peter
to try
Haas.
and manage that
And
shit.
the Russian embassy warned of, quote, an even
We
wider
flew into
arsenal
Pakistan
of tools for
uninvited
pressure, including
get a
sanctions that
clone
may
for
be
Bush.
used. And the Russian embassy
And
warned,
Obama
quote,
thinks he got
the
Osama
attempts
bin
to
Laden.
further destabilize the situation
It's
in
incredible.
Bangladesh
Obama was
along the
actually
lines
in
of
power.
the Arab Spring are
But
likely.
Bush was alive.
The Arab Spring, of course,
He got to
refers
watch
to
it
the
over
protests in
Obama
countries
to get a
like
laugh like Pete
Tunisia
Shoemaker
and
and
Egypt,
the
and
guy
then
in the
later
room
Libya and Syria,
was
where
the
the
former
US
CIA
military
guy
intervened to try to overthrow the
sitting,
government.
the white man,
and NATO
hugging
destroyed the
Shoemaker.
government of Libya in 2011. And still today, there is no unified central government in Libya. It's a failed
Former
state.
sec
There
def.
are open-air slave markets.
Bush.
It's been in a state of
Not-
civil
not
war.
Rumsfeld.
The U.S. fueled
No,
that
CIA
disastrous war in Syria for a decade that led to
White
hundreds
guy
of
with the white
thousands
hair.
of deaths and destabilized the region. So by drawing parallels between the violence in Bangladesh
He was in the
and
camera
the
shot
so-called
with
Arab
Obama.
Spring, Russia was predicting that there would be more violence and the government could be overthrown. And that's exactly what happened.
Oh, how
8
about that?
months after
Well,
Russia
wouldn't that
made
be
that
prediction? That's
Now,
predictive
another
intelligence.
complicated detail
It sounds
in
like
this
this
story,
shit
which
works,
I should
doesn't
mention,
it?
is that
KGB.
the son of Hasina,
We do predictive
Sajid Wazid,
intelligence.
claimed on Twitter that the speech that the Indian media got access to, that Hasina had allegedly written, in which she accused the U.S. of backing her ouster, he claimed that that's actually not a real speech. However, I actually don't think this is true. I think he's lying about that for political reasons, because as I'll show in a moment, what she is alleged to have said in that speech is exactly what Hasina has said previously. It was not the first time that she had said that.
All
and
right,
what's actually
so
funny
that's
about
that.
these remarks by Hasina's son is at the same time, he also said that foreign forces were backing the protests in Bangladesh. I'm reading
That's how
here
it
from
works.
this report in the
They
Bangladeshi
agitate.
media.
They
The
get
alleged
people on salary to go
unidentified
whisper to
foreign
people and
forces
pass
had supported
information
the
as they're
protests.
standing around.
And he said, quote, I believe at this
Broad
point
form
it
influence,
is from
propaganda.
beyond Bangladesh. That is that foreign
You know, you
governments
sound
or
smart. You tell them,
institutions
hey,
or
this is
parties
something you didn't
were
know about the
supporting
other side of the
these
coin.
violent
And they go,
riots. And by the way,
yeah!
he pointed out that in
How'd
these
they get so
protests,
many
they were not
students to
simply
rampage the
peaceful
fucking
protests,
embassy?
as is often the case in the
Roll
color
on.
revolutions and regime change operations. The Western media
I mean,
claims
the
that
Marines
so-called
didn't fight
peaceful
back
protests,
against
but in
all
reality,
those. What,
there
the
are
stage
often
crew of
hundreds
that day
people
was, what,
dead
300
on
people?
both sides. The rioters
Now, they really got hurt and
violently
were scared
attacked
and
state
got
security
hunkered down the
forces. They
hatches.
attacked
They went through
people
their
who support the
procedures like a
government.
fucking
And he pointed
submarine.
out that, yes, some of the
Trying to
police in
clamp the
Bangladesh
windows
did
closed,
use
didn't kill anybody.
excessive force.
Why didn't they
But
just
there were
open up
also
Tommy
attacks
guns on the
police.
invading students and
Police
protect
members
our
were
embassy?
killed as well.
Why
The
not?
violence
Genghis
was
Khan
not
would have done it.
one-sided. And this
right
is
on the
exactly
spot,
what
hammered
happened
down the
in
fucking
places
students.
Like Syria,
That's what should have
and
happened
Libya,
in
and
Iraq,
many other
Iran.
countries where you have these regime change
Fucking
operations,
students invade the
where
embassy,
these
you
so-called
murder
peaceful
them.
protesters
That's not
end up
Kent
killing
State.
a lot of
Those are foreigners.
state personnel and politicians even.
It'd be like
But
people
regardless,
invading the
getting
White
back
House.
to this
Oh, wait a minute,
allegation
that happened
her
and Trump
speech
was the
fake,
president
it
and
was
the guy with the
fabricated.
fucking
I don't buy that at all.
horns
Because
sat
the
on his
allegations
desk,
that
so
she
I guess we
allegedly made
lost
in that
already.
speech are
Then he went into
identical
retreat.
to what Sheikh Hasina has said numerous times.
Julius
In
Caesar,
fact, I'm
William
reading here
Dennison,
from the
24th
major
of Ohio,
Bangladeshi newspaper,
Postmaster
the Daily
General
Star.
for Lincoln.
In
He had the
May
spot
of
temporarily.
2024, just a few months before she was overthrown,
Walked the grounds
she
in
gave another
D.C.
speech
So Trump
in
had it
which
in the
she
back of his head.
alleged that foreign governments were trying to create a secessionist
masterminded
state
COVID, for God,
out of
with Bill
Bangladesh
Gates.
and Myanmar. Of
He
course,
was
the
the
strong
president.
implication is that
Wuhan.
the U.S. is trying to do this.
And look,
she
he's
said
coming
in
back,
this speech
right?
in May,
Uh-huh.
before she was
He
overthrown,
had sex with his
she
daughter.
said
He's coming
that
back.
she was offered that she
Friend
would be
of
allowed to
O'Keefe,
stay
he's coming
in power
back. They say yes
if
to
she
me, Billy
allowed
Bush.
a foreign country to build an air base in Bangladeshi territory. Now, she did not mention the country, but she said that the goal was to build a base in the Bay of Bengal. The proposal was for an air base, and she said the offer came from a white man. So it's
Why did
obvious
we
she's
leave
talking
Subic
about
Bay?
the U.S. ambassador,
Why didn't we
Peter
just say,
Haas,
look,
or
we're
maybe she's
staying.
talking about another U.S. government
Make us
official.
leave.
But she's strongly implying
Like
that
in a
white
private
man,
meeting.
that is
Look,
a
we're
U.S.
not
government
leaving
official
because we want to
came
protect
to
your
her
country.
and said, we will
Get
allow
the
you to
fuck
stay
out.
in power if
We
you
didn't.
let
We
us
left.
build
Subic Bay.
a military base on St. Martin's Island in
And what happened? The
Bay of
Chinese
Bengal.
built islands down in
And she
Spratly
said
Island.
in
So
May,
they're like,
quote,
well, they own it
if
now.
I allowed a certain
Filipinos
country
got a
to
Coast
build
Guard
an
in
air base
Oyster
in
Bay off
Bangladesh,
Palawan.
then I would have had no problem. And this also came after a similar speech that Hasina gave in 2023. And as the
All right,
Bangladeshi
so we're getting a
newspaper
good
Dhaka Tribune
idea,
put it,
more or less,
the
through the
U.S. can
babble,
overturn the
that
power
there's been a
of
change
any
in power
nation
and the
which it
Islamist
wants.
student
I'm
element
reading here from the
is
newspaper.
being allowed to
Prime Minister Sheikh
participate.
Hasina said that the United
You know,
States
it's
can
right
change
and
the
wrong,
power
it's
of
witting
any
and
country
unwitting, it's the golden
if it
age.
wants.
So let me
And
see if
then
I can
in
find
her
another
speech,
report with a...
Sheikh Hasina.
Hey, I wanted to insert a little personal reference on the topic at hand of the region of Afghanistan and Pakistan. You know, they're connected. Khyber Pass. And we have Doctors Without Borders that have access to perform house calls. And in country, that's the way they do it, the old-fashioned way. On some sort of route to meet and help a homebound person with some sort of treatment and then move on. So insurance companies use that kind of access to find out if the kidnapped victim is still alive. Now go to the guy who defected with the beard, who left his post, came back, and Obama gave a bunch of Gitmo products for that man. He's a Muslim brother, and the receiving parents were clearly Muslim, like the beard and everything. So we got our demented citizen back for Barry and gave up ones that we policed up off the battlefield that he wanted to give back their freedom, like not to a jail. It may have been transfers to local, but you know, come on. So there was a man named Mike Furlong who worked for Flynn. He was a government executive. He served in the military. And Furlong had one of these companies that he started up with contractors to do CIA-like access to get to the right people. And it was working. But there was a threat to the status quo. And Flynn distanced himself when the word was made. And Mike Flynn's a Trump zombie because his life was wrecked by Trump over the conversation with Pence. It was all a big setup. Pence abandoned Trump. I guess they all knew that, and Flynn was accused of lying to him on a phone like he doesn't know that's going to be monitored. Well, it worked because some Boston Obama clone, who was the United Nations person, took that whole conversation as probable cause to do a FISA warrant and out Flynn's name as the counterpart talking to the Russian ambassador or prime minister who met in Trump's office like right after he was elected bodaciously. And they were in this transition. So Trump was a legally elected president, and Flynn was echoing the future policy about what Trump wanted to do when he was speaking to the guy. That was recorded and perceived to be, hey, what's going on here? He lied. It was really the subsequent conversation to Mike Pence that they picked up on and said, we got him. And then Trump was accused in a tweet about being wiretapped because the director of NSA came over and told him, no, I'm being, he tweets, I'm being wiretapped. I have to move. I think he went up to New Jersey. So everybody gets used and uses their expertise. Everybody gets used and uses their expertise for their best unwitting good. I don't know where Mike Furlong is now, but this quick article will prove what was going on when it did. But this quick article will prove what was going on when it did. Set up a spy ring in Asia. So this is out of Washington. Probably time. Yeah, it's the New York Times. So he made the national newspapers that everybody reads to work in the Foreign Service. You got to read the New York Times for a year, they say. This is a lot like kangaroo court justice. He said that his work had been approved by a number of senior military officers in Afghanistan and that he had never misled anyone about what he was doing. They only talk to one side, and those are the people running the cover. So Robert Gates, that's the name, not William, ordered the investigation after the New York Times reported on the existence of the network in March. The New York Times will put out editorial journal reports about the assassination and the Umbrella Man that are fucking twisted. That's the New York Times. The inquiry was carried out by Michael Decker, atop to Mr. Gates for intelligence issues. Here comes Mike. He's sharp as a tack and very emotional. He's a type A kind of guy who was a go-getter. And again, I held his clearance to get him back on the books. And he came to my beach house at Madeira Beach, and we talked about a bunch of things, and it would have been great to have continued to work at him. He's a senior Air Force civilian official. He's been barred from his office in San Antonio for several months. Now this article's going back, but Pentagon rules forbid the hiring of contractors as spies. Well, that's an interpretable thing, because if a president can assassinate people Pentagon rules. Those aren't laws. Those are regulations. The whole thing is one big... And look, there's Petraeus. You want to talk about a door-kicking Antichrist. Betray us. He wants to take out Palestine properly these days. But he was then the top commander in the region, signed off on Mr. Furlong's operation in January 2009. That's dated. That's getting into it. There were specific prohibitions against intelligence gathering, including hiring agents to provide information about enemy positions in Pakistan. Well, what if those guys are just taking a little extra money for doing their normal job? How bad is that? The infrastructure was there already. Don't you see they don't know how to fight and use their own assets that are at their disposal, organic, native doctors, and others that have placement and access? That's what his work was all about. But some Pentagon officials say that over time the operation appeared to transition into a traditional spying activities. Well, fuck. We're over there. Long term. Imperial hubris. We got to find out how to get the hell out. Oh, we did, with a lot of prior planning and leaving all our shit behind. You see, Jesuits can't fight, and then we invented Space Force. And Biden gets accused of pulling out of Afghanistan too soon. Republicans say, let's go back for Tillman. My God. I don't know who she is. She's an ad. Officials say the contractors delivered their intelligence reports via hush mail, an encrypted email service, to an information operations fusion cell. I mean, who's getting the other end of that? At Kabul National Airport. That's north of Bagram. There, the reports were put into a classified military computer network and used either for future military ops or intel reports. So you had a system that was reporting with information via hush mail. A bin going somewhere. That's how it works. The contractors continued their work for weeks after Mr. Gates ordered the investigation, sending dozens of reports to the fusion center. The Pentagon finally let the contract lapse at the end of May. Now, I guess they're talking about all the shit being in 2009, 10. A version of this article appears in print October 29th, 2010. Man, that's smack in the middle of Obama country. Benghazi 2012 hadn't occurred yet. All right, so that's a summary on Mike Furlong, his relationship to Bill McCormick, thanks to Paul Morgan, my superior, my man, former J2, set up Mr. Wyand, John Wyand is Socrates. He came in from DIA as the J2 technology at US SOCOM right after the Nunn-Cohen Amendment was signed, putting SOCOM in place. Russell J. Gould's info was in the SOCOM library because it was an offsite due to the GWAT and the synchronization. And Peter was Peter, and Garrison was Paul. It's all epic, but I'm not done yet. Just giving you this segment as a part of the deep deal tied to 1971. All right, let's move on.
Said,
sort
quote,
of a different take.
The country
Joe Biden's inclusion. We all know that big mice man. Obama we endured. Dementia Joe was forced away. One turn and then he slows. Now democracy's secure. Primary started getting tough. Fake accent she whipped out. You know she's lying. She starts to laugh. Democracy would be lost.
Makeover.
We must win at all costs.
Literally. It used to look differently.
The socialist too. Is she Indian, black or white? She's the
Joe Biden is lurking in the rear. So put them all out front.
Just sit right back as it ends implode. The swing states Trump will flip. Now Kamala, the open court, a Joe Biden single ship. We all know that big mice man Obama.
Chiggers Mongo.
Dementia Joe was
So,
forced to wait 100 then he slows.
who you do, Ginger or Marianne? I'm proud to say we used to play that game. Who would you do? Any two women. Somebody calls it out, the gentleman pick, imaginarily. And you have to do one. The answers are astounding. And a man named Greg from SAIC, Greg Clarkson by name, the imagery man, very much a programmer. He liked that game. Billy, let's play Who You Do. We went to a Mexican restaurant in Fayetteville, North Carolina. You know, you order the number, the full meal. He eats the meal and waiters, I like another number 5. He chowed down a second meal. Hey Billy, let's play Who Would You Do? So you gotta pick 2. I mean, come on. It's US SOCOM, a very diverse collective, cafeterias and stuff like that. So birds of a feather flock together. And you just saw Gilligan's Island. How'd they do that? It's an illusion. It's a show. It had episodes with Mr. Magoo. Roadhog! Alright, enough of me. I know my tube, and I'd like to thank Jimmy Edwards. He's got 2 first names. He goes to the Philippines. He comes back here. He knows how to build a still. He fucking wrote it down for me. That big handlebar mustache. He's a good man. Larry Costa, too. Martone, wherever you're at. Hope you know it's Tuesday. Take a good pee. We're going to win. Reverse the age. Feeling. Swing. You know, the irony of golf and skydiving, it's about relaxing. Peace. Yes. Yes. The Hopi corn doll. It's the blue Kachina. It's key code 7. Your body's a temple. So, we just listened to Mr. Norton talk about perspectives on, call it the Ukraine and its relationship. In this segment, you're going to hear, you know, it's a control apparatus, draconian lead, with people in meat suits, like William Brennan. Brennan was Clinton's morning briefer, and suddenly he was the chief of station in Saudi Arabia during the buildings bombing there that Downing investigated, Khobar Towers. He's a devout Muslim. Now, if you tear the suits and the belief systems away, he's a Draco. Why? Because he was the director of Central Intelligence, which is the keystone for Five Eyes out of Pine Gap. Five Eyes is really the Ukraine, but it's the Mossad as a key piece. It's like a backbone. But the CIA is the Nazis, so it's the Germans and the Ukrainians. And when they went at each other in World War II, the Draco picked all the good spots to go to. and the Germans came into the Ukraine from East Poland, and that whole area was occupied. Now there was Hammerstein, who wanted to kill Hitler, and he's the guy that did the box about type of officer you want to pick. He's lazy guy who watches it all and takes it in, good advice, got a good smart staff that work for him, they like him, they're industrious. So those are the top two. Industrious, smart, lazy, smart. Then there's lazy, stupid. And that's the private. You're going to make them do what you want to do. The industrious guys are going to make sure that it's going. It's everybody else under the leader that's smart and wants to be in the unit. Then you got guys that are lazy, so you're supervising them, their problems, whatever. But they're lazy. That's just the fundamental, if you oversee them 24/7 and make sure they do, that. Then there's the industrious idiot. The lazy, stupid guy and the industrious, stupid guy who thinks he's smart. That's what Hammerstein said was the dangerous one, and he wanted to kill Hitler. So you just heard about the relationship and the news reporting on all things 1971 Bangladesh related. So I'm going to give you an unsung hero that, change needed to come. And it's really the Prime Minister of India that matters. He's the guy that put himself in place, and he's tied in with Putin. He's shaking hands in all the pictures. But get a load of this 26-year-old student who's the real story, because it's bottom up at the university level, just like they're protesting about Palestine now. So when the Germans came, the quote from the German invader, the little hater, talked about moving into Ukraine and making sure they get the native people. So a lot of good people got schwacked, and all the Jews got burned by the 6 million were the gold stars, IBM. I was just telling somebody it's the punch cards. That's how they evolved. And it's deep blue because there's fluoride in the water. So the Nazis are all over the place. The dark ones. It's the concordant with Aldebaran, the Arion, dark, and the Draco. So you'll see the relationship with Brennan on top in his position, and then under him you got to go with an amazing contingent with Obama down there, because he was in the jumper program and he's just controlled. He picked Biden and he's out, and he's a pedivore, so while he's a master global walker, he's controlled, abracadabra. Because he's not a Draco. Brennan is. Like when Brennan's security clearance was pulled by Trump, who mouthed off? Admiral McRaven. So he's one that's under Brennan. And Obama's wife is Michael Robinson. And the Filipino guy was an American sailor in Subic Bay, and he was protected from knowing about his wife, and then was homeless for 55 years in the VA system in San Diego, named Robinson. So numbers are important. David's Kingdom was 1010. COVID went because of the magazine in 88. Add a year. This October 2019, the flagship delegation came over to do the money and the e-currency, 5G, chips, the Mercy came up. It's all fabrication, man-made, exuberated by real biochemical shit that came out of the labs, and they're all over the place. Bill Gates, a Draco. They eat people. Epstein, the island. They just do it. It's Nosh. It's Epstein's Deli down there. The McRib, homeless. It's dark. Now I'm telling you that we're children of the light, and we don't have to eat people. We don't have copper blood. We're not from the Nibiru, although we are. You took a ride on the Nibiru. Doesn't make you a bad person, but it's a universal point of origin, and you can still be a good person, like Ea, seventh density light being, or David Icke, who walks the surface now. He's point of origin Nibiru. Many people resonate with, oh yeah, I was there. Doesn't make you universal point of origin there. So go with Aldebaran and whatever happened there and other planets. And now you're in the secret space program, and they want to, scramble up tapestry and surrogate baptize people into like, woohoo, go fight Kruger. Well, they did fight Kruger, really, or somebody did, and they just try and torque it up. And then in 2030, where everybody from that program is breaking out. That was Billy the Kid. So we're going to watch this student, and we're going to see some pictures of that scene where the crowd is there. Robert Gates, Genghis Khan to be, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, jumper program. He's the president. He's watching a clone go down, and he thinks he got him. Please. It's blocks. The guy's Tim Osmond, by alias in the U.S. And we spent $1 trillion to drop him, a clone. And Bush laughed at Obama, and Michael Jaco was there. And so he's close in on it. Navy SEAL. It was 6. It was actually elite guys that went and did it. With Army helicopters that were stealth-proofed by Brown, of Task Force Brown. I mean, it really happened. The tweets prove it. Twitter. Let's watch this. Now, this is the counter-argument to what you just saw.
A 26-year-old, soft-spoken sociology student dethroned the Begum of Bangladesh.
আমরা বলেছি বারবার যারা এই ফ্যাসিস্ট রেজিমের সাথে গণহত্যায় জড়িত ছিল, দুর্নীতিতে জড়িত ছিল, তাদেরকে আইনি প্রক্রিয়ায় বিচারের আওতায় আনা হবে।
On 5th August 2024, Sheikh Hasina resigned as the Prime Minister of Bangladesh and fled the nation on the army's demand after hundreds of protesters chanted, "Go Hasina, go." The day was historic, but one person will probably make it to Bangladesh's history.
I want to let you know, again, that George Harrison went there because a friend asked, and it was 1971, and called that a collective because he was a Krishna guy. And Clapton came, and they did like a freaking Farmer's Aid thing, but it was for the people of Bangladesh. It's classic. Roy Murphy, long play album, 33 1/3.
His name is Nahid Islam. With a Bangladeshi flag tied across his forehead,
Islam
the
means
26-year-old
surrender.
student leader campaigned to oust PM Sheikh Hasina, which eventually ended her 15-year rule. Nahid Islam emerged as a key figure in Bangladesh's deadly protest, which toppled the
Don't
national
fight,
government
surrender.
and forced Hasina to resign
Anymore.
as well as flee the country. What happened
Peace
next
and love
was history.
only. It's coming. As we wake up, we won't be fighting.
কেউ আপনারা আইন তুলে নেবেন না, আমরা প্রতিহিংসা রক্তপাত চাই না।
So also,
আমরা
the
একটি
perceived
শান্তিপূর্ণ
radical
বাংলাদেশ
student
চাই।
party is
This
being
was
allowed to
Nahid
come
Islam,
back.
a sociology student at Dhaka University who emerged as the face of Bangladesh's political upheaval as his campaign led to the dethroning of Hasina. Nahid serves as one of the national coordinators for the Students Against Discrimination movement, a student-led protest demanding reforms to the job quota system in the Bangladesh government. The movement argues that the quota is a discriminatory and politically manipulated system to access government jobs.
You know, it's funny the way protesting works. Like in the 80s when I was in Korea, college students, they're burning the U.S. stuff. They want them out. And then they graduate and they disappear into the Hyundai conglomerate. So the radicalism coming out of college grows up and gets jobs. And then you have a few that stay in college or they stay akin to it. And you watch them and you just don't know if they're witting or unwitting. to throw a Molotov cocktail at Christopher Columbus, because he was tied in with that generation. The bomb throwers, the guys that, did
Nahid
that
has
shit.
been vocal against Sheikh Hasina's party, the Awami League, describing its party members as terrorists deployed on the roads. During a public address, Nahid declared students had picked up sticks and would take up arms if sticks didn't work.
See,
The
like,
26-year-old
that's the
Sjarks
Palestinians,
student Nahid
flinging
made headlines as he, along with
a rock
several
and a
other
slingshot.
Dhaka University students, was abducted by unknown men from a house in Shobuj Bagh on July 19.
Look at that.
He was blindfolded, handcuffed, and tortured during repeated interrogations
Was he waterboarded?
about his involvement in the protests.
What's he gonna
2
say?
days later, he was found unconscious and battered under a bridge in Purbachal.
Oh,
Nahid
shit.
was kidnapped for the second time on July 26
He's a hero.
by people who identified themselves as intelligence agencies and again reportedly tortured him. However, the police denied any involvement in the second abduction.
প্রাথমিকভাবে আমাদের অন্তর্বর্তীকালীন সরকারের জন্য সরকারের প্রধান উপদেষ্টা হিসেবে সর্বজন গ্রহণযোগ্য নোবেল পুরস্কার বিজয়ী আন্তর্জাতিক খ্যাতিসম্পন্ন ব্যক্তিত্ব ডক্টর মোহাম্মদ ইউনূসের নাম প্রস্তাব করেছিলাম এবং আজকে মহামান্য রাষ্ট্রপতিও সম্মতি দিয়েছেন ডক্টর মোহাম্মদ ইউনূসকে
Prime Minister
প্রধান
was
করে
forced out.
অন্তর্বর্তীকালীন সরকার দ্রুত সময়ের মধ্যে গঠন করা হবে।
Despite facing torture and violence, Nahid continued to
Always
lead his
the dark
anti-Hasina
side, it
movement,
persecutes
which
the light.
escalated into a deadly protest.
You have to look at it
Born
that
in
way.
1998, Nahid Islam has vowed
But he's
to
not
create a
they
new
didn't kill
democratic
him yet.
Bangladesh, safeguarding life, social justice, and the nation's political landscape. He has promised to prevent Bangladesh, a nation of 170 million people, from reverting to what he described as a fascist rule, and urged fellow students to protect the Hindu minority and their places of worship.
This is New Earth thinking. And he's 26.
After Sheikh Hasina's ouster, Bangladesh Army Chief General Waqar-uz-Zaman announced the formation of an interim government. However, Nahid Islam declared that students will not accept any government led or supported by the army. The Nahid-led student
very,
movement has proposed
staunch.
the name of Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus.
So
Now
enter
Yunus
this
will be
guy.
leading the interim government, a decision that was taken in a
So they're
crucial
saying
meeting
the U.S.
chaired by
put him in
Bangladesh
place
President
'cause he
Mohammad
knows
Shahabuddin.
people. He saw. So he's connected in on either side of the house and will regulate accordingly. Film at 11. But the Ukrainians are tried to assassinate Putin, and he didn't get hit. Please know that. He's our turret. Tear the skin off these people and put animal characteristics on them, and that's what's going on. Witting or unwitting? Industrious idiots or lazy, smart people? You know, the ones at the top are lazy. Keep smiling. Meanwhile, people are dying. DMZ's got a cardboard front. There was a Korean War, and Kim was trained in Switzerland. They have the mask. Yet there are customs. Burn them, float them down the river. People die. Well, it's a golden age, and the couches will go, and somebody will be sitting on them, and there's, oh, Asina's father, Asina, that's the female. Whoa. You know, these arbitrary systems for putting people in place. What are the jobs in Bangladesh? You got like a green Japanese flag. What Olympic sports do they compete in? So here's a guy. Is he a puppet? I mean, I'm going with the student. And he looks like a objective, nice, what are you going to get at the meetings? These people are ready to rise up. So that's that. Okay. So here we have it. $1 trillion worth. I mean, this is just a Google search on Tim Osmond. What are you going to get? Where do you get pictures? People posing together. There's Anu with Osama bin Laden. Zbigniew Brzezinski was Anu. And there he is. So if this was Jeopardy and the question was, who's a ringmaster and impersonator? There's Tim Osmond. I mean, that's the name you have to go with. I mean, do you see any resemblance? I do. With Condoleezza Rice. With Hillary. Similar shots. This is going to be good. Hang on a minute, I'm zeroing in. Yeah, there's a broadcast. Green screen. Go Ukraine. Go George H.W. Bush, dear friend. Go Saudi royalty hypnotized in Naples. Mons Venus up to Logan. Commandeered by Jeb Bush. With one plane, he sanitized. So it was a pretty clean job, Cheney in the basement. And this man was a field agent. So let's be clear on that. Okay, we're going on. We got some good, as a matter of fact. Let's see if we can do this hot. Yeah. Alright, so we're back to timelines and the music concert and where the Ukrainians got their beard pulled off and what this guy's going to tell you about them and the plot to get Vlad, that they ain't going to touch him.
Are you guys in on this? You guys...
Go from the beginning. So now the student, a guy named Islam that we just saw earlier, helped promulgate this, and the new leader, you could call a U.S. install if you want. I mean, somebody's got to be in charge. This kid is not stopping. They refuse to have a, like if it was Egypt, they're saying, we don't want a military government.
Let's talk about some news.
Very
and let's start things
bold.
off with the New York Times article that came out a couple of weeks ago. I
So
talked
clock
about
this in.
article in a couple of video updates. And the New York Times reported that the Russian defense minister, Belusov, he called the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, and basically,
Friend of Frank Phillips,
what the New York Times was saying
had colon cancer.
is that the Russian Defense Ministry, they got wind of some sort of Ukraine
He was kind of
terrorist plot.
not in his position for a brief
they
period.
called up the Pentagon and they told
Lloyd
Lloyd
Austin.
Austin about this terrorist plot. They asked if the U.S. was involved in this.
Men get
And
prostate
they basically
cancer.
told the United States
I forget,
to
maybe
tell
a colon
Ukraine
cancer.
to not go through with this terrorist attack, or else. And we did not at the time know the details of this phone call, like what this terrorist plot was all about.
So this is input to the
Well,
Pentagon.
we got the details. That's how it looks. We got the details
So
of
the
what
Russians
Ukraine
knew it was coming,
was
and
planning
they
to do
said, hey,
in late July, and why the Russian Defense Ministry urgently called up the Pentagon, and they warned the Pentagon to tell Ukraine to back off and to not go through with this terrorist attack, this attempted terrorist attack.
I mean, that sounds pretty.
So what was the New York Times onto, and what were the details of this terrorist attack that Ukraine was cooking up? You guys are not going to believe it.
Ukraine.
Maybe you guys will believe it. I was shocked
Draco.
when I read about
They ran barges
the
into
details of
bridges.
this terrorist attack.
Borat.
A phone call between Belueve and Austin.
Bin Laden.
It looks like
A social
Ukraine
memory
was
complex.
planning to assassinate Russian President Vladimir Putin, as well as
So the Russian government is telling the Pentagon that.
during the St. Petersburg Navy Day event on July 28th.
St. Petersburg
That
Navy.
is what Ukraine was planning to do.
And they have the
Take out
assassination
the Russian
capacity
president,
to
take
put
out the
themselves
defense
in
minister,
spots they need to
and all
do
of this
that.
was planned for
It's
Russian
how they
Navy
operate.
Day.
So these guys found
Amazing,
out
huh?
and tell the five-sided
Absolutely
building.
amazing. You want to talk about triggering World
And here
War III.
a month later,
Triggered World War III.
August,
That would have triggered the destruction of Ukraine, without a doubt, the destruction of the entirety of Ukraine, and it would have.
I mean,
absolutely
Putin
put
put the word out on
US
Obama
into a world war, because, according to the New York
Of the
Times, I
music
remember the
shooting.
reporting from the New York Times, Belueve was asking Austin, "Are you guys in on this? Do you guys know about this assassination?"
You know,
Or
that's
at
a
the time,
power.
do you guys
That's
know
a
about this
that's a power.
terrorist,
That's a paraphrase.
plot? When the New York Times was reporting this, we didn't have any of the details that this was an actual assassination against the Russian president and the defense minister. And according to the New York Times, Lloyd Austin was taken aback by what Belueve was telling him, making it appear as if the Pentagon had no idea what was going on, and that's probably true. But what about the three-letter agencies? Did they know what Ukraine was plotting? Don't know.
It doesn't matter. The Russians are formally
Wow,
telling
what a-
them,
what a
hey,
revelation.
whatever role you're playing,
So,
that's a paraphrase.
staying with
Hey, this is
Ukraine,
happening. Are we friends or not?
We have stamps. We
So
have stamps.
Flynn was
F-16
always in
stamps.
constant
That's
communication
right,
with
the
them.
Ukraine Postal Service.
But now you've
They
got,
have issued
hey, what?
F-16
We don't really talk
stamps
to you.
In order
They
to
hip
commemorate
checked
the
one of our
arrival
drones.
of the wonder weapon, the latest,
A Global
the
Hawk.
greatest, and perhaps
Over the Black
final
Sea.
wonder
We
weapon,
dropped
which
that
is the
pipeline
F-16.
to force
Ukraine's good
NATO
at issuing
to
stamps.
think that
If
it
they're good at
doesn't
one
like
thing,
Russia.
they're very good at issuing stamps. I give that to them. They won the stamp war. Ukraine won the stamp war. That's the only war that they won, but they won the stamp war. And the Russian company Rostec, they issued a statement saying that the F-16s could pose some problems, some difficulties, but they are no match for the Russian fighter jets, and they will meet the same fate as the Abrams tanks and the Leopard tanks.
The Russians have not
Every
even
other
used their
wonder
stuff.
weapon before them. The Russian military,
The Russian
according to
soldiers,
Rostec,
you know, used to get drunk on the
shoot
fuel and stuff.
the
They were
F-16s
burned out
down
alcoholics.
if they have the chance, if they get close enough to the front
After
lines.
Stalin, I mean, you know,
the
stuff just
F-16s
went
will
stagnant.
be shot down by the Russian
And they leave tanks.
military.
I mean, in Iraq when I
and
was there,
Zelensky,
shit was
as
just
he was
left
talking
there.
about the wonder weapon
In
F-16,
2003, 4, 5.
are in Ukraine. Zelensky once again talked up a no-fly zone. He is trying to get the collective West, trying to get the countries of Eastern Europe
He was
to
an
agree to
MTV
create a
purple-haired
no-fly zone,
fucking
not only in
comedian.
Ukraine, if they can't get a no-fly zone
Draco.
in Ukraine, which is not going to happen, at least to get some sort of no-fly zone in the west.
Osama bin Laden was Tim Osmond,
Ukraine. Have Poland and Romania
by Elias.
shoot down Russian drones.
Put it together.
From Poland and Romania.
We're in the golden
shoot
age.
down Russian drones and missiles that enter.
Angels are ET, many are human, so he's a good guy.
And I believe the F-16s right now
Drinking
are
water.
actually stationed in Romania. They're not even in
Some
Ukraine,
freakos
physically
out
in
there
Ukraine. They're stationed
saying,
in
"Drink
Romania.
water."
I guess the plan is that the F-16s will take off from Romania. They'll stay at the western part, in the western part of Ukraine, and they're going to shoot down.
This guy's like,
Russian
not
drones
him,
and
but
missiles,
this other guy was like mocking being
staying
woke.
far away
Coming from Burning Man and
lines,
freaking,
most likely
hey,
piloted by NATO.
I'm out of
I guess
my
that's the
mind,
plan. Now
and
Zelensky is trying to
drink water.
get more of a no-fly zone commitment.
That's a true
Throughout
statement. You better be
Ukraine,
drinking
but
water.
at a minimum, the western part of Ukraine. He's actually floated this idea out before. We talked about this 3-4 weeks ago
H2O.
when he was in Poland, or a month ago when he was in Poland. And at the time when he floated out this idea about
Use your imagination and thank it.
Tusk seemed to give his
We
approval.
put it in
but he was
plastic
hesitant.
bottles,
You could tell
naive,
from
and we
Tusk's
pay
body
for
language
water.
when he was giving a press conference with Zelensky that he was a bit hesitant about no-fly zone, but he was saying, okay, fine.
So you're getting a good tactical overview about no-fly zones and a fucking bat. Bats have radar.
To Blinken and
So Mike Blinken, he was another guy in the shot. So let's look at that. I'm glad I remembered.
Tusk had to tell Ukraine, no,
All right. Good man. Thanks.
to shoot down.
Okay. This is going to be great. It's all in the same group. But let's look at Orange Head right in the middle. His logo behind him. You know, his hands are under the table so he can't make a signal. But there's a temporary guy there to his left. And look at Miley. I mean, that fucker. He's just gone. He called China. He didn't want Trump. He said, work for me. When all the shit went down, he posed with Trump, you know, to churches and all that. So there's his vice president. Remember, he picked him. And what happened? He was the tying vote. Nope, they were not going near helping Trump. Now, Trump has regulated this whole thing because he's Augustus Caesar. He has incest with his daughter, and on 23 September 2017, the tribulation began under his administration of COVID. So here's Barry making his announcement that the clone got hit, and he thinks it happened. He had to do it. So we're going to get to this picture right here. Here he is sitting in the back. You know, the guy who's got the view right there is Robert Gates. He was Bush's DCI, and he knows, he's fully read in. Let's look at it that way. Fully read in. Hillary posed with him in his field gear. And Biden, I mean, the jury's out. He just should know. But it's Joe Biden. Now he's Genghis Khan. So, again, if he smokes tobacco and exposes himself to the right diet and plants, he'll gain clarity. And he's Genghis Khan. And he's retreated now, so he's going to be in power when the fraud hits, and he'll stay up because he's not going to get thrown out. The other two are a front while he goes to work, so to speak. He's a sleeper. He's a one-man sleeper cell right now. So watch Biden. So there's he's controlled, the guy in the corner, by William Brennan, who's in this shot. Where is he? I will click on this fucking thing and make it what it's supposed to be. I don't know if that's good. There he is. So Brennan's the controller. You see Clapper's mug. He's just next to Brennan. Hillary's real interested. There's fucking sex state Twitter or Ditter, whatever his name is. This is Admiral Mullen. This is the Air Force guy who's running the laptop. You know, they got CCTV cameras and all this shit. So that's how the hit went down. and he was a clone. So they're all watching the clone get hit, and they're interested. Now Gates knows because he knows Shoemaker. Shoemaker is way in with Bush because they found Looking Glass. And I don't know if it was foreseen, but, you know, George H.W. Bush left everybody a note that said, I'm sorry, and they know everything. So take that to the bank. You! Stand by. Dudes, let's launch, shall we? I'd like to dedicate this video to Long Island, everybody on it. Formed by a glacier. A glacier? Huh? Yes, the Long Island Sound. Tesla took a shot to Tunguska. He wasn't aiming for it, but that's where it went. There's Bell Labs, there's Montauk Point, there's the secret space program. Who knew? Fire Island was gay, we knew that. I can say I don't think I set foot on that Fire Island. No need. But I'm gay. You see, they used to have Coke and Coke, but I want to dedicate this to a gay man. He went through his gay period. Greenwich Village. It's Roy Murphy. Chaminade, 1 year behind me. I call him close to a genius with very kind eyes and a hilarious laugh and big teeth, and he got punched in the stomach by Kevin McCaffrey and got a rupture of his spleen. But he's obviously married now. He's a sailor and he's a fucking private eye. Look at him. Roman Catholic. Bet his picture's on the wall with Bill O'Reilly. So 1971, why Roy Murphy? Well, he had an older brother. We listened to old Cosby stuff on the LP. We hung out quite a bit. Enough for me to be able to tell you. 1971 was a huge year. George Harrison. It's going to blow your mind. One of the Beatles. Hare Krishna. Got a call from a friend and Clapton turned out. And these dudes did a recording. It was like for the people of Bangladesh. And it was 71. So put yourself where you were then. Because I was listening. If I was born in 59, do the math. Because I was born in 59, 1859 too, so it's pretty easy. You round up to 60. Well, maybe a bit of 12. Whew. All right, we just did some 4-digit numerics. We got a Chinese calendar, for goodness sakes. I'm trying to tell you something. Maya's got a calendar too, okay? Been explaining it if you're following my channel. So you got to be interested in this. This suit that's real. A rendition thereof. Like there's a real version. They're unable to have sex. And they're going to terminate because they're going to run out of petri dishes or something. It's boring. They can't do anything but manipulate you with their heads. Yeah, they can stare you down and you're gone because they're telepathic. They'll have you freaking dropping your drawers in front of people and walking away. It's hypnotism. Look at this hypnosis and being. He's on a sailboat. Is it the Jolly Roger? It's not. But he got his spleen ruptured from a punch in high school. It was shortly after this. And it's quantum. It's George Harrison. They got Lennon. Bush got Lennon. And the call went out. The call went out. And they came. So put it in that light when you hear it. And where were you then? Where were you then? Where were you then? Who's the president? Who's a good hockey team? The Islanders. the dynasty of the Islanders. Well, I watched the whole NHL get crushed by the Soviets in '80 at the Garden. Yeah, it's a short ride in, past Liberty, over to the Venezuela, the Baronzano. Hey, where's the Statue of Liberty? I'm going to fall out of the car because they build it so you can't fucking see it. Cocksuckers. But you pay a toll. Now they're probably wireless. If you're on the grid, that's your trip. You see, you get free one way. You actually can get out of New York a little bit cheap if you go in one way and out the other. Going long distance. Well, speaking of long distance, he was born on 9/11/3 BC. There's a conversion going on, and on 9/11 it's going to be .0. So we are now at what class? Say the number. Say the number. Say the number. Today's the 4th, so it's day 359. Tomorrow being 360, and then we lazy days it to 9/11. Back to 0. Why shouldn't it be? Doesn't 0 start everything? But what do? We go from the 31st to the 1st. Day 1. From day 365. Where's the 0, Batman? Well, it's right here. 0 point. Center of the earth, 400 miles down. Flip it and then crawl up. Then you're in Agartha. The fuck am I talking about? Well, I'm telling you. There's a flippin' Chinese calendar, and it's the year of the dragon, Lee, the Ever Given. But we forgive them, the Ever Given Hillary. It's her fucking code name. Don't be scared. It's all real. She was Jezebel. Oh, and he was Ahab. But this is the Chinese calendar. And I haven't really studied the correlation to the Mayan calendar, but I got it pegged pretty much. Twin flame. Now, I was Margaret Clitheroe too, and I'm going to give you a little exposure to that before I'm done with this video. But we're going to listen up front to this song in the resonance of the day. Freddie Mercury got AIDS. You're my best friend. And Mick Jagger. Where's Mick? Is he on the film with J-Lo and will.i.am, taking you to AI as he lord dances around the ring? Mick Jagger. Fat lips. The Jagger. He never gets old. They just cretinize out. Tick-tock, tick-tock. He's been here before. He must have been. We were in Atlantis. The Rolling Stone. Yes, reincarnation. Who was Mick Jagger before he was Mick? We know that Charles is a reptile and he eats people. And they're all lords and knights and fucking soaked in blood. And J-Lo is, when the lights go off and what happens? You gotta ask Ben Affleck, man. Or Alex Rodriguez. Or that Spanish guy down there. Or whoever the hell she wants to sleep around with. There's probably a church to J-Lo someplace. There's one for Beyonce. And Hillary runs a coven out in L.A. right in front of your face. Yeah, they did Oklahoma City, and George H.W. Bush was the kick of the dark sun, Vatican II. Pius VI. 2 popes. Who's the real pope? We lived through it. There's supposed to be one pope. He's supposed to be the vicar. What happened to the vicar? Well, one went Benedict, and the other went Draco, Argentina, Jesuit, eating people. So you got a Nazi in stagnation mode, and you got Francis. Now, before Francis, there was John Paul. He was a Nazi, so it was a double Nazi op. Banging his freaking the bullet into the crown chakra of Muhammad's daughter, of all people, Fatima. You want a secret? You just got it. So, I was told by Keith Lawless that he needed to have a colostomy because of that shot. I wore a colostomy bag. I got reversed. I don't need to show it to you, but trust me. By Dr. Osama Hamadeh. I don't know what happened to Pope John Paul II, but he's dead. He's fucking dead. And he instituted divine mercy due to Sister Faustina. I think she was a woman. Faustina's feminine, but she wrote a journal and had horrific dreams and told him to tell everybody. Well, he chose to tell everybody when he got his chance from Poland. Yeah, from Poland. Which part of Poland? Which part, huh? Which part of Poland, Royal Crown Prince Pope? The People's Pope. John Paul II. In a nutshell, you go backwards from Pius the Sixth, Paul the Sixth, Pope Paul the Sixth, God, Pius Loyola. Loyola came out of the Pyrenees Mountains. He was like an army dude, a Portuguese, whatever, and fucking was crippled and hurting, and said, the message is, if they're suffering, good. We hate them. We hate women. Look, they're lighting up in the forest out there, those bitches. Let's ram rods up them. Yeah, and burn them. They're the Cathars. It really happened. They did that. They were sick. You were there. Which side were you on? Man or woman? Do you know? Oh. Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming there's a space force? Ashtar told us there's a space force. Do we need a space force? Pause. Do we need a space force? Isn't it a joke? It's an extension of the air farce. The space farce. Like, the US is like SR-71 minus 71. That was their max capability, man. Speed of sound, boom! You know what it was called in Korea? Olympic game. See, I played this game with Captain Kim. You had to flick the triangle and kick a field goal, but if you watched my channel before, you know there's field goals. Woo! Whap. McCraven. Michelle is a cock. But to bless his mother's feet were pointed like this on his birthday. Total eclipse of the sun, Jupiter and Regulus. Whoop. And then they went on their way. But the days lasted for days because of the refraction of the magnetic energy. And they had this alignment going on now with 2 of the 3 planets the Anunnaki love. Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. Dear Lord in heaven. Say it with a twang. Country. Fee, fa, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Whatever. Fairy tales. King Tut. All these characters on Batman and stuff, you know. Captain America. They eat people. I mean, Captain America was doubled up because he was pre and post, you know, CIA. Because there's an ISS, so we get a vote. ISS. Yeah. That was the intel piece before the CIA. Like before 47. It was a War Department. People at the top made rules, and fucking paper was paper, and teletype was teletype, and we fucking made shit happen, steaming open envelopes, and being one step ahead. But we had pussies. Look at MacArthur. He retreated from Philippines. He shot American troops on Veterans Day. World War I. Trying to collect their checks. He fired tear gas and fucking sent them home. I mean, come on. And then they put the guy in charge of the Philippines. Then he goes to Australia. Then he comes back. I shall return. Gets to be credited with helping the Japanese write their constitution. And they came over here with Subador. ISO 9000 qualified doing PT together. You see, they weren't done. They're going to keep coming. They'll get their turn at the plate again. They integrate into the major leagues and kicky dicky. But they got nuked. And like Andrew Dice Clay said, which you would think was funny if you weren't so sick, what he said about the A-bombs was, what was in that shit? Fertilizer? Isn't that chuckleable? Are you allowed to laugh at black humor? Well, those souls are going to take a long time to be put back together because they got hit by a nuke. So at least take that moment and know that it triggered 3 waves of volunteers. And you're one. If you have any level of comprehension whatsoever and you're not a fucking retard, you heard what I just said. Good. Isn't that blatant use of language? Am I a Tea Party patriot or a homosexual Brokeback Mountain faggot? Or am I gay? What if I drank Coke and Coke? They did it at the end of the 1800s. Where the fuck were you? Waiting for them to make alcohol legal and pot illegal. With the illusion they brought on in the 30s. Viticoncordat out of Hollywood. Reefer madness. And who knew tobacco? The power of tobacco and nicotine. The true power of it. If I say nothing else in this video, do not forget the power of tobacco. Natural. Please, smoke it. Smoke it. Indian brands. Cherokee Casino has a great brand, and a dumb, hard-headed, woodpecker-lipped, sour, flippin', vaccinated Indian somebody woman didn't know what they were. Such simple people with complicated job, they should have job descriptions. Hey, if you're going to work here selling cigarettes at the casino booth, here's a prerequisite. Study the fucking cigarettes so you can answer questions. Not look like you just got fucking stunned walking down the street and pissed off because you got to answer a question. I'm just saying I got what I needed. The brand is Signal. I've briefed it before to you, the viewer. Now, we're going to take a break. It'll be a minute for me, but pretty damn quick for you. Now, if you want to put it on pause, I'm going to count it down. Give you a chance. Then we're going to listen to George Harrison, Bring It In. Because it's all true. 71. Shoemaker found a looking glass in 80, and he was Peter of the Bible. Pregnant pause. Let's relate this to actually what's going on in Bangladesh right now with elections and resumption of power and a bringing back of what would traditionally be called like a terrorist wing of Bangladesh. But let's listen to what happened in 71 and know that this country is very close to Nepal. Just to orient you really quick, look at the region. It's India, Tibet. It's right there. That's the Earth's crown chakra. So there was a problem. And a friend talked. His answer was that you'll hear. A friend asked him to help. This dude went Hare Krishna. So you go to the garden.
Because I was asked by a friend if I'd help, that's all. I'd just like to say before we start off with the concert, to thank you all for coming here.
War was going on between Pakistan and Eastern Pakistan. It was then known. That's where I belong to. And George immediately felt that he would help.
There
was a question of phoning really just the friends that I knew and to see who was available to turn up. I spent 1 month just telephoning people.
Two of the Beatles with Clapton. Yeah, at the Garden.
Of the event came across, and the audience was so great because they knew at that time they were witnessing.
The Mets and the Jets 2 years earlier, man, they stayed on a roll at the Garden. New York City, the center of the earthly universe. 9/11. Central Park, Madison Square, rock
Really, you were expecting the biggest rock and roll band of all time, and I think it delivered.
Boom. Oh, mope it down. He's all freaking.
The musicians were great. They completely put down their own egos because the whole vibe of that concert was that it was something bigger than a lot of us.
You have these guys, hey, let's jam. They can give a shit about. Like, it was George Harrison pulling it in. That's why his mug is on this thing right now.
Such a unique thing. Everybody.
Michael Jackson did the same thing.
A special feeling apart from
We Are the World. Put Coke back in Coke. Mandolin.
Overnight, everybody knew the name of Bangladesh all over the world.
I think the most memorable thing really was the fact that it came off and that it worked.
It was an immense success artistically, and again I use the word spiritually because he decided
he's a producer, get a load of him.
Ability for another reason.
Moneymaker. Makes the shit ton just producing, huh?
These things will always be remembered as times that we could be proud of being musicians, where we actually just weren't thinking of ourselves for 5 minutes. We were doing something for a bigger issue.
And we need that,
After taxes. Oh God, for UNICEF. Oh no! The fucking bin. I'm so sorry. Apple Films, double whammy. Oh, it's just not right. It's just not right. Alright. 50 moments.
The world got some shocking news in the spring of 1970. The Beatles had broken up. The following year, while John Lennon and Paul McCartney traded insults in the press, the quiet Beatle, George Harrison, spoke loudly with his actions, organizing 2 massive benefit concerts at Madison Square Garden to aid the people of Bangladesh.
So, Billy Joel wrote an album, Cold Spring Harbor. And we used to hang out there from Plainview on Long Island, New York. That's where I grew up. Town of Oyster Bay. So we'd go up to Cold Spring Harbor and play Frisbee. I mean, guys could chuck it a long way. It's big. It's 200 yards wide. The water, the wind coming off the water, boats. Beautiful environment right there. And a lot of kids would come from the region, like multiple towns. So, you just hung out. Kind of like a Baguio Park in the Philippines, but white people. So one day, this band of fucking mandolier fucking chanting, half fucking out of their minds, decide they're going to come and talk to us. Very boldly. And they said things like, "You have no God. Our God has 2 hands and 2 feet." And the other ones go, 2 hands, 2 feet. So, through their psychedelic, mushroom-based, fucking robe-wearing, bald-headed illusions, they were trying to tell us the truth. But of course I took offense. I'm like, don't you think Yeshua ben Joseph had 2 arms and 2 legs? I didn't know then what I know now, but by God, that was a Hare Krishna. Hypnotized. Do-do-do-do-do. Didn't that end sad? In UNICEF, trick or treat for UNICEF. Every penny counts. They take every goddamn cent, and it doesn't make it to the other end. It builds up and up and up and up and up like FEMA, and then they lose it like Rumsfeld did on 9/10. Whoops! We spent it. Where's your Social Security? We got mini subs, we got flying saucers. How do you think they pay for them? There's an inner life. They go to Mars. There's a jumper program that's funding Deep State, Coke, the Silk Trail, Bush, 9/11. Yeshua's got the gold. He won it. Thank him. Space Force! He said Space Com. You heard it there. Now hear it here. Long Island's a special place. The Chinese have a calendar. It's the Lee family. I haven't deduced it yet, but now we've heard. We've heard the word. I heard it first on this man's turntable. What was the name of his older brother, Roy Murphy? It was a common name, but I also knew Ricky Murphy. All you Beth Pagers from OLM, the 7th and 8th grade years. He was a lanky albino, and his parents knew how to dance 50s style. I mean, they'd wrap it up for us in his basement, every bit of 7th grade, with a 6-pack in my hand. Walking on South Oyster Bay Road, flipping off the nuns. Monday'll never come. Boy, did I get lectured. We saw you out there, McCormick. Sister Janine, she's with me now. She taught me that I couldn't figure out a square root by long division. Can you do that? Can you find... Viewer. All right. I'm not stupid, and I could learn it. But can you find the square root of a number using long division? If you can. Means you own a calculator. Try and do it in your head. Irrational numbers will drive you batshit. No, they won't. A circle's irrational. So, just try it again the next day. And know that there's a Chinese calendar. I'll be supplementing with comparative analysis of moons and dragons and Excaliburs, and that the Swiss have a mask, and 71 was a year. We'll learn more about that in contemporary Bangladesh. Oh! Till then, immediately.